What's on a lot of people's mind has been this deferred action for childhood arrivals, otherwise known as DACA. And then that leads me kind of into a topic that I want Michelle to address. Quite frankly, it's the entire subject of immigration, not just what immigration is doing to America, what it's done to Europe. And Amir Sarfati is going to be addressing some of that at my conference because one of his messages is Europe closer to the Antichrist, and quite frankly, how some of the Islamic immigration in Europe has just changed the complete, well, everything about Europe has been changed in the last, say, 5 to 10 years because of Islamic immigration. Michelle and I happen to live in the Twin Cities. We're very familiar with what Islamic immigration into Minnesota has done. And Michelle, as I say that, you and I are not necessarily, we're not anti-immigration. My grandparents came from Russia. Yours likely came from a foreign country. But we also are very concerned, as it concerns the Islamic immigration, Michelle, the issue of Sharia law, etc. You have a particular interest and a burden for this topic. Talk to me about it.
I do, because I see how the character of Europe and the United States are being changed by this mass migration coming primarily from Muslim nations. The real problem in Europe is this. You have primarily a Muslim population that has been coming en masse, 80% of whom are young Muslim males who are coming into Europe by the millions and transforming the face of Europe. And we're seeing that even within our lifetimes, that the Christianized West will be in the minority in European countries. In our lifetime. It takes very little time when you have that mass migration for the next population coming up to be Muslim. And that is completely changing the face of Christianized Europe. And I ask your audience, where do you go? Where do you go? Where do you find Christianity as a dominant religion? You find that in Europe, you find that in the United States, and you find that in Canada and in Australia, but you don't in a few other smaller countries. But these are the countries of the world that are leading like countries, and I believe that it's because of the faith in a biblical standard and a biblical God that has brought about enlightenment and prosperity for these nations. And we've been a light unto the world because the gospel is the light unto the world. But there's been an extinguishing of the gospel because of Islam coming into Western Europe. That's just been a fact.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing that in the United States coming in as well, and I think we need to be very concerned.
Well, you said to me that wherever you go, you ask people about their concerns about immigration. What are you hearing?
What I'm hearing is in community after community, through the so-called refugee resettlement program, the United States government has people come in and placed into the United States. It is done cooperatively between the United Nations and the United States State Department, with the UN choosing who the United States gets. So we're getting a huge number of people coming from very dysfunctional, primitive backgrounds where there is a lack of literacy and there's a belief system that is in alignment with Islamic Sharia law, which for all practical purposes is illegal in the United States if it's followed. For instance, it's illegal to freely beat your wife. It is illegal to rape your wife. It is illegal to cut the genitals off of a girl or to be married to four different people. Yeah. This is in part Sharia law, or to have permission to rape a woman who's not a Muslim. This is what Europe is dealing with.
Yeah.
And now the United States is dealing with this. And so that's why this is a big problem, and our government needs to protect the American people from an assault coming into our country.
Okay, and again, there's been recently, and then there's been this controversy, this conversation on DACA, again, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA. 800,000 young people, heavily under age 35, some of them criminals, but some of them not criminals, some of them even serving in our military, and that's why we have the conflict over the DACA people, young people. And we referred a little earlier to a tweet that Donald Trump sent out that would have been all the way back on September the 14th. And I want you to read it so we get it right, but it sounds like he really wants these DACA kids to stay. Read that tweet.
Sure. Donald Trump put out two tweets, as you said, about 10 days ago, and one said, does anybody really want to throw out good, educated, and accomplished young people who have jobs, some serving in the military? Really? And then his next tweet says, they have been in our country for many years through no fault of their own, brought in by parents at young age, plus big border security. So President Trump, in his own words, is disavowing what he said on the campaign trail. He said, and really not even just the campaign trail, 2 weeks before these tweets came out, his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, said that the policy of the White House would be they would not uphold President Obama's illegal DACA announcement, which is he was going to give amnesty and did give amnesty, and they say it's 800,000 young people. Usually the government grossly undercounts the number. It's probably a far higher number than that. But what they want to do is give all the benefits of legalization of citizenship to people who broke the law to get into the United States. And the fact is, not everyone is good, not everyone's educated, not everyone's accomplished, not everyone has a job, not everyone has served in the military. So no one wants to be mean to them, but at the same time, when are we going to get a grip on our borders? When are there going to be consequences for breaking immigration laws? I don't get the benefit of the doubt if I break traffic laws or if I break banking laws. I have to serve my time. Why is it that people who come into the United States and take advantage of 88 welfare programs, for instance, in the United States?
That is correct. These folks would get access to these 88 welfare programs.
Even though they are not supposed to, they still oftentimes do get access. And they absolutely are filling our emergency rooms all across the hospitals of the United States. That's where they go for their primary care. They go into an emergency room. They use their children are being educated in our school system by order of the Supreme Court of the United States. So there's huge costs that we are bearing. So President Trump said he was going to build the wall, but he was also going to do deportations. And he did not say on the campaign trail he was going to give amnesty to illegal aliens. This would not be a one-time deal, and this wouldn't be 800,000. Trust me, this would be multiple millions who would be given the benefit of citizenship. And remember, we have a huge number of senior citizens in this country who are dependent on Social Security and on Medicare and oftentimes on Medicaid. Now, baby boomers are about to retire, and there's a fewer number of people, younger people, supporting all these older people. We have a huge challenge trying to keep our promises with our current senior citizens. If you legalize all of these illegal aliens in our country, that will only serve as a magnet for millions more to swamp into the United States, and it will be increasingly difficult for us to keep our promises to our senior citizens. This was the number one issue that elected Donald Trump. This is what elected him, because people wanted an end to bringing illegal aliens coming in and gaining advantages in our country, because the number one thing that happens is that wages stay lower in the United States and benefits stay lower. Now, employers may like that, big employers, but the American people want to see wages go up, and they want benefits to go up, and it can't when there's an unending supply of unskilled workers coming into the United States.
Well, we also want to see a wall, and as we speak, I don't think we know for certain. We opened the program talking about, the president certainly is crossing the aisle, and in some instances that's not all bad. I think right now it's not looking real good.
Well, but where's the Republicans?
But
why in the world
they're out to lunch? That's why he's even doing it.
With the president's agenda.
I think that's the root of the issue, and I think that's the root of his confusion and why he's going across the aisle as he is. I hope in coming weeks, months, and even a couple of years, and if you can get in your evangelical advisory capacity and get some answers, I know my listeners would love to hear. Granted, we're in troubled times, and we're in times everything's upside down, just as Isaiah 5:20 prophesied would happen, and good's being called evil, evil's being called good. But at the same time, we're in a time that the prophets of old longed to see, and that's the last days.